Michelle, are you ready?
I was born ready.
She's an award-winning author, speaker, and podcast host who serves on the National Faith Advisory Council. She supported Donald J. Trump for president before it was cool, from her she shed in her beautiful backyard. This is the Michelle Moore Show.
Hey, Mike Gill. I smell skunk. That's right. Michelle has given me the opportunity to explain. You wanted to know more about Pandora's box. I'm going to take you back and tell you a story and show you what made up the Pandora's box. We're going to take you back, and I took you back to 2013, now 11 years ago, of me refusing their $50 million and the settlement agreement and posting it. But you didn't see all the other attempts that went after that first one, and how aggressive they got and how dangerous it got. Well, now you're going to see it. In fact, we have two sworn depositions, one for a moment of mine and another one married to the mob, where you get to hear a woman who was literally married to one of the mafia heads of the Boston Costa Nostra. Really? We get to read about it on the Boston Globe, front page with Steve Wynn. But I'm going to bring you there. See, that's the money laundering network. There's LLCs and going through the banking department and the auditing of the IRS and the Treasury. But let's take you to the cleaning aspect, the casinos, the lottery, the laundering machine that are the racetracks, certain racetracks that are owned by still organized crime, tied into the casinos from Las Vegas, as the mafia never disappeared, but it's organized. And it works with the deep state in the laundering of money. They're tied to the cartels because they use and network through the same laundering networks. That's what you're going to see here. You're going to see inside and how they launder. You're going to see the same laundering network and how they pay off politicians, senators, governor, judges. Okay? So let's start. Let's take, you know what Michelle would tell me about, we would talk about, people like to hear certain times in my life and what I did and stories. Well, let's tell you one right now, okay? So, Ron, if you could start, we're going to play this first video. And this video, right, is called Mafia Live and Well. You're going to see wire transfers from Cantor Gaming, which was part of Penn National Racetrack. They were using the wire service, fixing races, wiring money offshore like to Singapore, and it comes back clean. They were doing it for themselves, organized crime, and the cartel. Penn National was hiring cartel members, putting them into the racetrack, giving them state licensing. Okay? So what we uncovered is this Penn National. Now, Penn National Gaming is what I believe is the largest casino operator in the country. No small potatoes. And again, tied in with Steve Wynn, who then, when this was released, resigned. Okay? So in other words, you're going to see about those fixing races, but that wire service, they use it to bribe for payoffs. So you get to see how they do it, actual wire services. You're also going to see how they put a plant, a mole, which I keep telling you about moles. Well, you're going to get to see one, a very dangerous one, a very clever one who came as a victim. And I'll explain more as you're seeing it. That was really married to the mob, was in there for the cartel. What they were doing was buying Rockingham Park Racetrack in Salem, New Hampshire, which then closed. Penn National was meeting the cartel in Salem to build the largest casino in the state and racetrack and run the money laundering network, the Pandora's box. It is what the Pandora's papers would have dropped their money in. The cartel from here went on to build multiple casinos. But I crashed this deal. I stopped this deal. They would have been bringing in cartel members from Mexico, from around South America into New Hampshire to enforce what they're doing. You had no idea the potential, what was going down. And at this end of this, of the last video, where I'm giving the deposition to inside the cartel and the mob, they tried to murder me right after this. Okay? So remember, you're seeing evidence. You're seeing evidence now that the Department of Justice was given by me, by hand, and the FBI, and you've seen it. They know what's going on. That's what they fear. So when you say openness, you understand the depth of this, but it can be opened. But I need help opening it. Okay, so Ron, if you want to play this, start this. Is that sound on, Ron?
Mike Gill.
Okay.
How would you like me to break this all wide open? What if I can prove every accusation I've made about the corruption in horse racing, the briberies of public officials, law firms, attorneys, and the corruption? Now, I'm not going to just make that accusation or those accusations. I'm going to prove them to you. Are you ready? And I'm going to tell you how they're doing. This is why they were so afraid that I potentially could find this out. Now, I didn't find this out by myself. I've had victims groups taking information from certain people that need protection. But I did put some of the pieces together, and I'm going to share them with you. I'd share them with the FBI, but the problem is they're running cover for Penn National and Cantor, their wire service. That's right. Last week, I showed you on a video that Bruce Dupay has gotten information that would open all this up. You see, they're going to have arrests, Pennsylvania, just as they did a couple days ago in Massachusetts. And it's going to be a small gaming ring. Don't believe it. The real culprit is Penn National. You want proof? I'll prove it. Bruce, it's gotten back to me that you say I'm in dire trouble. You must not have got the memo. You know what the memo says? My life is threatened every week. You read the text. Remember the evidence I gave you? Remember? You're the halfwit, right? Well, let me help you with your investigation. The clerk of scales. That's somebody who works for Penn National. Jockeys were 135 pounds. Right, Rudy? What about the clocker? Right? He works for Penn National also. Jenkins, the racing secretary, he was putting the races together with these guys. How about the licensing commission? Miss Bodella? She's only registering illegal aliens, including the jockeys, and taking bribes. Now, don't we know that? Because I know they've given it to you. Let's go on. Remember Donnie Brown running that gambling syndicate that I said? Well, I'm going to tell you how they do it. Here you go, sports fans. They do it through PayPal. They transfer the money, Cantor Gaming, to eBay accounts. Except for there's really no transactions out of these eBay accounts. See, they're money transfers. Let me show some to you. Now I'm going to have you look at this evidence with me. Bruce, isn't it so? The gate people, don't they work for Penn? And aren't those sneaky bastards medicating the horses right in the starting gate so it doesn't test? You know that's true. Those are Penn National employees. But let's take a look at Penn National. And Cantor, remember that's the wire service. Now, what you're seeing and what I'm looking at now, you see actual eBay accounts. And these eBay accounts called Light Body, you see that? I'll scroll down. You're looking at actual eBay accounts. Except for they're bogus. There's no transactions coming out of them. You see those numbers to the right? That's the amount of transactions, except for nothing's coming out. You see? It's money transfers. It's bets. It's bribe. So they take through PayPal and they send it into these false eBay accounts. Now, Light Body. All right, let's see who else we got. We got Win. I think he's got some explaining to do. Gattinari. Remember those names. Donacio. You see those? I'm tapping through them. All right? Indonacios. Now, you know what I want you to do? These are all transactions. Okay. You see that King Arthur? Turns out that's a strip club up in Massachusetts. Then I'm going to have you look at an article. There you go. Win lied over Boston. Crime links. I want you to look at those names on there. The New England family Costa Nostra. Wow. Turns out that these guys own 3 strip clubs. Do you remember that one that said King Arthur's? Turns out they own that. Foxy Lady, Glass Slipper, they own those too. And it seems they've been using Cantor Gaming to place bets and transfer money into eBay accounts. Or I don't know. Let's take a look. You see Light Body on there? I do. You see Donacio? Gattinari? Right. Costa Nostra using Cantor Gaming and making bets. There it is. Now, let's keep going. Let's go through the article. Now, look at these. PayPal accounts. These are going to state troopers. And look the account numbers up. Cantor, offshore, Singapore, huh? And there we go. Penn National. You got one too. Now, this is very interesting. You see this CG technology? See all the transactions down there? In fact, that one there in the bottom has got over 2,000. You know who those people are? They are state officials of Massachusetts and New Hampshire, state police, judges, senator. How do you like that? That's payoffs. That's illegal betting and payoffs. See? All of them. Mob.com. You see this Seabiscuit? That's Suffolk Downs going through Cantor Gaming and making bets. Oh, and there we got Penn National. Remember, private Penn Nation. They're using, look where they're going, Thailand, Germany. They're using fake eBay accounts to transfer money and pay politicians, law firms, bribe people. Their associates are the Costa Nostra. Who is Penn National? You think about that. See how they're opening up casinos? What did the mob do? Own judges, politicians? What's happening right now? Isn't that who's blocking me? Corrupt judges and politicians that I told you and law firms? They're getting paid. Those accounts were from Mass and New Hampshire getting paid through Penn National. Right. Look, and these are the variations. Loan Shark, Loan Shark 3, Cash Cow. Boy, you gotta say, you guys are creative. And this one I take particular interest in. Pollock. This couldn't be Ray Pollock, could it? Because I got one with 918 transactions. Right. Illegal gambling. So that's how they do it. PayPal, money transfer to eBay, right? Using Cantor Gaming's wire service that got closed down last year, which I question how could they, Penn National, get a license in Massachusetts, knowing that they had ran an illegal wire service. In fact, I remember reading, did the Gambinos own part of that? Wow, right. So here's proof that they're betting illegally. And Brown, didn't he own bars? They bet through those bars, just like these guys use the strip joints up here to bet through. Can you say bookies? Right. So when I told you those years ago that they were holding my horses, you understand why? They couldn't have an honest guy in a race. Not when they're making these kind of bets. These races were fixed. And that's what I was catching. And this is what it's come down to. I'm going to show you here. There's over 200,000 transactions. You know what? There's state workers, probation, trial judges, prosecutors, attorneys, construction companies, bookmakers, state troopers. In fact, the state trooper has their own account. Troopers Cantor Offshore Gaming 1-GDOC. That's the payoffs. What I'm going to do is give all this information to the FBI, Internal Affairs in Washington. Because you've got some work to do. Don't forget the state's attorney, Kakavas. You know, Rockingham's going to want a casino. Who do you think they're bribing up here? You think Bill Sheen ain't going to get paid? Right, Gene? Right. What's the bet? You see that Mass New Hampshire account? It doesn't go back to there. All we got to find out is who owned the eBay accounts. And then you find out all the criminals. Just happens to be judges, senators, law firms. You have seen me exercise my right to free speech. Well, I'm home all alone. You've broken into my house many times. Except for I'm also going to exercise my right to bear arms. So you're welcome to come by. Just one of us isn't leaving. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, first of all, right, when I say Bruce Dupay is an FBI agent out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So the FBI has all of this, and they were blocking and covering, including the U.S. Attorney's Office with Bruce Dupay. So when I say Internal Affairs, I was calling them out with their own people, and I did. The problem is, when all those years later, this was 2014, 10 years later, when we find out that they are all corrupt. It was the FBI protecting it. The mob who was connected with Penn National was also laundering money for the cartels in the Mid-Atlantic. They were buying Rockingham Park to move that laundering network to the Northeast. That would be what Pandora's box is. They were connecting that to the laundering network. They knew what was in New Hampshire. They knew if they turned around and built this casino with Shaheen, with the cartel, that was all the plan, but they had to silence me. But when you see those payoffs, you see what I'm saying? That's the money laundering, offshore and back, because that's how they clean it. It's a disconnect with the money. So what they were doing was moving that part from the Mid-Atlantic, Pennsylvania, plugging that same operation into the state of New Hampshire, Salem, New Hampshire. That was the play. They were doing it for the cartel, Dick Aganos, and launder his money, which is why Aganos has built casinos across the state. It was in replacement of this. This was going to be a behemoth, a machine of laundering. So, what you have to understand now, again, the time, I just refused their $50 million. Okay? They turned around and then with the horse racing, Penn turned around. They were working with the people in New Hampshire. That's why you'll see texts with lawyers afraid to be murdered. But they're saying you were right about Paulus and Pincus and Penn National. They were all covering up. They were all part of this. Okay. So now, remember now, we just found this. Now, what I didn't understand what was going to happen is what happens next. You're going to see a brief deposition of me in a deposition. The video, and again, you can go to State of Corruption and watch the complete. This video is called Pay for Play. And the last one was Mafia Alive and Well. But they're all connected. They're all in the moment of time. And when you think of all the players that are involved here, we've got the mob, the cartel, and the deep state. Is there somebody left? Now you think about this now. What happened was when I refused their $50 million, and when you've seen the 44-page report, and Michelle has it too, and you'll see that they brought this offer to me, and you'll see all the people that are in the offer, and you'll see that they're in the releases for the settlement. So the $50 million is real, but then I said no. What I did was the same Morris Mahoney, I sued. I was putting them in jail. And at this time, I had already went to TITCA, the Treasury Inspector General, the largest case in the history of investigating the IRS. I'd already been to the FBI and DOJ, and everybody seen it, and they had the evidence. Okay? They all did. All right. So I went to sue them because they weren't doing their job, and I was making it public. From even this deposition, I made public. So you saw everything. You saw the move. Now, this is just a couple minutes, but there's a surprise in a deposition. As I'm giving them a deposition, they gave me one, and that's fine. And you can see it all. But in this deposition, before it starts, I made a disclosure. In my deposition of Eric Renner, an attorney from Morris Mahoney, and remember, shortly after this, they offered me another 50. And then tried to murder me when I said no. So you're in the middle of this right here and now with a better understanding of what could happen now than I did then. I didn't at that time know the names of the cartel. Remember, it was Aaron Day and James O'Keefe who brought me Dick Aganos, Andy Cruz, Bill Greiner. I knew there was a cartel. They put the names on those people in 2016 as I was running for governor. They knew what I found. These were all years before you heard of Aaron Day or even James O'Keefe, really. He didn't show up till 12. I've been banging on this since 2007. All right, but they knew what I had. They knew I was on the money laundering network. If they could give me the heads of the cartel, I could put them together. And as you see now, I had the mob, I had organized crime, I had the deep state, but the cartel was here. And it was them that they were laundering the money for. It was them that was buying Rockingham Park in partnership with Penn National. It was always that play. Okay? But here's what the sneaky little buggers did. In this deposition that I gave to Renner, when they all left, the stenographer and the cameraman were packing up. And I just started talking. And then the cameraman said, "It was very nice to meet you, Mr. Gill." I go, "Why, do you know who I am?" He goes, "Yes, world champion of horse racing. I've been a big racehorsing fan. I go, "You are? Have you worked in the racehorse business? Do you know the race boy?" He just knew too much. And guess what our boy did? He works for Penn National in the racing commensurate of Pennsylvania, shows up in a Boston law firm, right? And the stenographer turned around and witnessed the whole conversation. She worked for Penn National too. So when I'm in a deposition, suing for $50 million that they're willing to pay, but not giving releases, because that's, again, what I denied, even in here, because at the time I was actively trying to get them arrested with the FBI, DOJ, and the DEA, all of them. So at this point in this, so watch this for a second, and you're going to see the reaction of these people. Now, case in note, too, you're going to hear the lawyers, the three lawyers, mention their name in the deposition. Those are all the lawyers on the top of that 50 million, Curley and these three lawyers. Those names are the names that you hear. Okay? It was me against three of the top attorneys maybe in the country. They didn't embarrass Trump's attorneys. Trust me. This guy Curley was only a professor at Harvard of law. Okay, Ron, if you could play it.
The first clip you're going to see is the beginning of my deposition. We had just gotten sworn in. The deposition that I had given the day before had a stenographer and a court reporter. After the deposition, I spoke to both of them. They both declared that they worked for the Racing Commission. Why were they at my deposition? It's because they were afraid what I was going to find out, and the fact that Ted Little is connected with racing. Watch the clip.
We are now recording and on the record. My name is Vanessa Howland. I'm a legal video specialist for Catuno Court Reporting. Our business address is 255 State Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 02109. Today is October 29th, 2014, and the time is 9:56 a.m. This is the deposition of Michael J. Gill. In the matter of Michael J. Gill and the Mortgage Specialists, Incorporated, versus Morrison Mahoney, LLP, Nicholas P. Alexander, and Eric E. Renner, in U.S. District Court, District of Massachusetts, Civil Action Number 1:13-CV-11241-RWZ. This deposition is being taken at 35 Braintree Hill Office Park, Braintree, Massachusetts. The court reporter is Ariane Baker of Catuno Court Reporting. Counsel, will you please state your appearances, and the court reporter will administer the oath.
Robert Curley for the defendant, Morrison Mahoney, LLP.
Good morning. My name is Steve Duggan. I represent the defendant, Eric Renner.
My name is Michael Kerrigan, representing defendant Nicholas Alexander.
My name is Michael Gill, representing myself as the plaintiff.
Want to swear in, Mr. Gill? Thank you.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And we will be operating under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and the local rules of the United States District Court for Massachusetts concerning the conduct of depositions. Good morning, Mr. Gill. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Michael Gill. I'd like to make one disclosure before we start, is that I was made aware just after the deposition yesterday that the videographer and the stenographer did work for the the Racing Commission. Is this tape, or anything to do with this tape, involving the Racing Commission, or the Commission will see it?
I will tell you at the outset, I had no thought about the Racing Commission or anything to do with the Racing Commission. Have had no contact with the Racing Commission and have no understanding that anyone from our office is going to contact the Racing Commission in any way.
But that was a disclosure that was made, so I just believe that we should, well...
I don't know what disclosure you're referring to, Mr. Gill.
Well, after the meeting, the stenographer and the videographer, and talking about horse racing, we were just casually talking, they made a disclosure to me, but she did, didn't she?
She said she could not talk about the case.
That she has done work for the Racing Commission, and she inferred that you also did.
This next clip, you're going to...
Okay, think about how sneaky this is. Now, Penn National, after this, offered me $25 million along with Liberty Mutual, $25 million, as you will see in a sworn deposition. They were in that room. Penn National, no one was going to see this. The racetrack, the Penn National was doing the videotape, doing the stenographer so that you wouldn't see it. I had somebody videotaping them. What you turned around and did, and I didn't know this. I didn't know, wasn't suing Penn National, but I was going after the laundering network. Penn National was bringing it into the laundering network, was becoming part of it. The racetrack, the casino, the connection. So and I was calling them out and doing videos at the same time. They were heading to, like 2 trains on the track with the cartel. Everything that's evil was in that room. You hear them. All 3 of those attorneys then went on a $50 million settlement offer. You think they pay you $50 million for being wrong? The people videotaping, the stenographer worked for Penn National and the Gaming Commission. Again, the laundering. So they were spying, and it was a mole. And from here, they did offer the money again. Another settlement, and you'll get to see that. But know what that is. So they're saying, well, we don't know anything about it. Really? Then how is it that the next settlement came half from Penn, half from Liberty Mutual? They didn't know? Of course they knew. How about this? Now it's going to get interesting. So let's think about this. I catch the wire services. Now, you know how I catch the wire services? By these victim groups. I had a wife of a state trooper. They were going through a divorce, and they were going to throw her over the coals. You know what she did? She gave me the computer files of that state police, organized the whole thing, wires. He was a bag man for them. So I had all of them from here, and then Penn National. So at that point, I turn around and find these wires. They turn around and they're spying on me and literally bringing their own people in my deposition. All right, now you'll love this. Ready? Married to the mob. And she was. It was a woman that turned around. They got smart. They started sending me victims or state of corruption. And those victims were really moles. And we had the moles of all moles. And you're about to meet her, Shannon Donnelly. Doesn't sound like she's married to the mafia, does she? But she was. And what happened was, at this point, I had the cartel, which I still didn't understand. I knew there was a cartel. I didn't know the names. Again, that's when I got them in 16. This was 2 years before, but I knew of the deep state. I knew their laundering network. That's what I had. I knew that Penn National was involved in that laundering network. I was thinking it was deep state laundering. Well, the deep state laundering talked about drug laundering. And I knew that they were bringing drugs in through the hay trucks. I knew that they were bringing illegals, cartels. After I put a video up, they arrested 3 for murder shortly after. And again, it's in the videos. So that's all, and that's what they intended to do up here in New Hampshire. So from here, I turn around, and this thing expanded to the point that they started coming to me about settling. Shannon Donnelly's got a job working for my company. I didn't even know they hired her. She was just a victim I was talking to on the phone, but she managed. She got into state of corruption. She said she was a paralegal, again, before I even knew it. So before I knew, they had a plant and said my company. The people doing the hiring, Kerry Lemieux, you'll get to meet her, and Brian Toomey were always working for Shaheen and Walker and the deep state. So they were putting everybody in there was connected. I was alone. You're going to see this video. The cameraman is Kerry Lemieux. After this, she gave my address to the cartel. And a Russian tried to murder me, 6'7", in Miami. and it said no room service. You've seen it. The FBI has it. You've seen the evidence that the FBI and the DOJ have. So that's no joke. So the person in this next deposition, videotaping, after this, set up to have me murdered. The guy on the left, Barrington, you only hear him, maybe see him for a moment, but if you see the whole video, you'll see him. He was already working with Shaheen and Walker. He was also a plant. I'm deposing a mole in a room full of moles, all of them. One tried to get me murdered. And then you see Barrington offering me settlements thereafter this, through the same people who wanted to kill me. All right? So married to the mob, they'll cut into this deposition. And I'm giving the deposition, even though Barrington, I have a lawyer and I'm paying him. He's sitting to my left, but I know who he is. And you hear me tell him who he is. He was reaching for the evidence to find out the informant. And if it's not in this clip, you'll see the video. You'll see how I handle that. He didn't get that name. None of them did. Okay. All right, Ron.
We really didn't know about Liberty Mutual until recently, but you did.
That's what Kerry told me.
Really? Well, when you were talking to Hiram, did he talk to you about Penn National?
Yeah, we talked about Penn National because that's what I was telling him when we were in conversation about you believed the systemic thing, like whatever you want to call it, RICO, whatever, correlated to something with Penn National.
Well, you just didn't remember what you said to him.
There's pieces that I do remember.
Well, I just asked you what you remembered. You didn't remember anything, so now you remembered Hiram.
Well, you jogged my memory, and thank you for that.
Great, you're welcome. I'm hoping it exercises it a little further. So, we have an email from Hiram suggesting we have a global settlement with Liberty Mutual and Penn National. So you did have that conversation. The email went to you now, didn't it?
Could have.
Right. So what? I wasn't even suing Penn National. Right.
You were bringing up a lot of things about Penn National constantly.
Was I suing Penn National?
I don't think you were ever suing Penn National.
No, I wasn't. But he knew Penn National, and he knew Liberty, as you did, Mutual.
Because he got the information from your websites. You told him to go on and look at the websites.
We never knew Liberty Mutual. Liberty.
I'm not talking about Liberty Mutual.
Well,
I
I'm
was
saying
talking about Penn National.
You had those conversations with Hiram Eastman of Mississippi.
Right.
Right? Regarding a global settlement with Penn National, right? And Liberty Mutual.
Okay, I don't recall Liberty Mutual. I remember having conversations about trying to inform him with as much information about the chronology that was, provided to me about all the stuff
Was there
that
a lot of
happened.
chronology?
There was an extensive chronology.
And you forgot that too.
I don't recall the chronology.
Exactly.
I gave it to him.
So, now we've got you talking to the lawyers. You've got released this information to Hiram. Hiram understands the saying, we're going to have a global settlement with Penn National when I didn't file a lawsuit, and Liberty Mutual, which I didn't know was involved. But the email went to you. Now, what happened with Hiram?
You said that he was working with, I forget who it was, began with an M, some law firm with an M. You said, oh, he's working with them. And I'm like, he's in Mississippi. There's no way these guys can be a part of it. And you had said that they were, and that it was all like some scam or whatever. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, because I didn't get that from them.
I didn't call it a scam. I said he was a spy. And does Penn National have a casino in Mississippi? Yes, they do. Well, now you know. And I accused Hiram of a spy. Do you know that Hiram never called back, right?
I don't know that.
Well, that's true. We have no emails or new communications thereafter. I told you Hiram was a spy, and Hiram, who was contacting you nearly daily through...
I don't recall him contacting me daily. I recall trying to get help for us.
Oh, so 828, 92, again at 92, 93, 94, 911, 911, 912. So there was quite a bit of contact between you and him, and it infers Liberty Mutual and Penn National. So, Do you believe in the mafia?
Do I? Yes,
You do.
I do.
Most people don't. Wouldn't you say
I
that?
wish I were that ignorant.
Right. Because you know it is true now, isn't it?
There's lots of different kinds of mafias.
Well, you know, the ones they call the Costa Nostra.
Oh, I don't know stuff like that. I'm saying I think that there's how one wants to define mafia.
Oh.
You know, the TV Sopranos, you want to call it that, or how should I say, other kinds of mafias.
I call it organized crime. Okay?
That's a yes.
So you believe in organized crime.
I do,
Is there a reason why you believe in it?
because I've experienced firsthand a lot of corruptions, and I couldn't believe the experiences that I've been exposed to in the last 5 years while being a citizen of the state of New Hampshire.
Wow. Was your husband in the mafia?
Not that I know that he was in the mafia, but he did. When I was going through my divorce, I hired a PI to find out about the sale of the business. And I found out through a PI that he sold, allegedly, his business to an alleged mafia person in Massachusetts.
Well, you wrote us this letter, didn't you? That
The day
said
I was
that.
fired, yes. with
Right. I
right
fired
now,
you.
yes.
Do you remember when I fired you what we were doing?
What we were doing the day you fired me.
We were
Who's
working
we?
on a video. Remember? Mafia Live and Well.
Okay.
You do remember that?
I don't remember you telling me
Oh,
that.
but you believe in the mafia,
I do.
and I was doing the video at the time.
Okay.
Mafia Live and Well. Do you remember why I was doing that video?
No, you did a lot of videos.
Yeah, but Mafia Live and Well? I mean, that's
you have
kind
a
of
lot of videos. I don't know why you
Oh.
do half of the things you do.
Oh, you don't. But you believe in organized crime.
I do.
So you know that I was an advocate. You called me because I was an advocate and someone that would help. So why wouldn't I do that here? All right. So when we were doing this video, Mafia Live and Well, do you remember I was getting information from different victims? And I was putting these pieces together in different victims. You were there the whole time.
I
So you don't remember that.
recall what
Okay.
you're talking about.
So you
exactly.
remember, I'm saying is that we found wire transfers from Cantor Gaming, Penn National, that went into Wynn Casino, that went into a few different names, a gentleman named Donacio.
That's what you said, yes.
Well-
and I remember meeting one woman at that one meeting that I went to.
Don't mention her name.
No, I'm not going to.
Good.
But
So-
that's where she had said
She was married
that.
to a state trooper, right, and took
I
this
remember her.
information out of the computer.
That's what she said,
right.
yes.
And that information was wire transfers. Wire transfers from Penn National, CD Technology, into these individuals.
Okay.
Why don't you take a look at these individuals? Can you read their name? The best you can.
Where am I looking, Mike?
You see right here? These transfers.
Okay. You want me to read them down, or?
Yeah.
Light Body 12, 10 years, 1 month, MI, United States. Wynn Resort 6 years, 9 months, United Kingdom. Steve Wynn, 15 years, 4 months, Ohio, United States. And then Steve Wynn again, 44, 7 years, 11 months, United Kingdom.
Just read the names, please.
Oh, okay. Steve Owen, Steve Wynn, Gaderneri, Ginger, Denzuzio.
Nacio?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Denacio. And then there's another one that's D-I instead of the E. Denuzio. J. Denuzio. Light Body 0. Light BDE. Light Body 02. Light Body 21. And Light Body 85.
And this here?
The highlighted,
Yep.
it says Penn National.
That's right. So it was all, so these are the things. These were transfers. Now, here's another one. Could you read who's on those transfers?
Wynn, King Arthur, 7 King Arthurs, King Arthur with 2 I's, King with a asterisk Arthur, King 7 Arthur, King Arthur with a U, it's spelled differently.
Right. It was a strip joint. Okay?
Sorry, I just think it's funny. It's like unbelievable.
Well, it's going to be more. Why don't you, this is an article from the Boston Globe.
Okay.
All right? And it concerns about the land deal. Could you read just this first little part right here out loud?
The highlighted or above it?
All of it,
Okay.
the first
Wynn
part.
Resort, I don't know what that is, limited, Wynn. And then it says unwittingly planned a $1.6 billion Boston area casino on land linked to organized crime. The U.S. said in charging 3 men with lying to the company and state gaming regulators about the connection. The men were arrested today after being indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of hiding financial links between one of the men, an associate of the New England family of La Cosa Nostra criminal group, and land being sold to Wynn Resorts. Federal and state prosecutors in Boston said in a statement. Want me to continue reading?
Yeah.
The alleged crime family member in the case is 54-year-old Charles Lightbody.
Hold.
Oh.
That's right. Do you remember reading Lightbody on the wire transfers?
I don't. I can look at it again.
Well, that's all right. The rest
Sorry,
of us
I was reading
no
it
problem.
down.
Read the, so Lightbody, I want to point out, is on the transfers. Keep going.
Okay. About Lightbody's interest, according to the statement. The state investigation revealed that these 3 defendants allegedly attempted to hide Lightbody's involvement in the company because he has a criminal record, quote, prosecutors said. Want to keep reading?
Keep going.
Wynn Resorts, the gaming company founded by Steve Wynn, was awarded the sole license in September to operate a casino in the Boston area, beating a rival plan from the Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority. The resort will be built on the site of a former chemical plant in the suburb of Everett. The 3 men are charged in yesterday's indictment in federal court in Boston with wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud.
What are the 3 men's names?
You said Lightbody was one, Wynn was the other.
Donacio.
Oh, I didn't see that in here. Donacio, I didn't
Well,
see
you
it.
pronounced it.
In here?
Yes.
Oh, there it is, sorry. Dustin Donacio.
Right.
It is.
Did you notice that Donacio was on that wire transfer too?
I do recall that name, yes.
Right. So, from Penn National Wire Service, we got wires going into Donacio and Lightbody and King Arthur, which by the way they own, into Wynn. Did you know that Wynn owns 30% of Penn National?
I didn't.
Yeah, and they use that wire. So now you know even the deal is, so we have 2 members, which I'm saying we got 3, members of the Cosa Nostra of New England, not my words again, the Boston Globe. And we have caught them in the wire transfers prior. Your husband's name was on those wires.
Are you serious?
You know I'm serious. You saw him when you were there. That's why we left that day.
My ex-husband's?
That's right. And you saw the name, and that's why you left. And that's why you wrote us this disclosure. Why don't you read this disclosure now?
This disclosure? Wait a minute, back up. What are you talking about? My ex's husband's name was not on that list.
I have it on the list, and I have that, and I'm putting this as evidence here.
Huh.
Right.
I'm surprised.
Well,
been divorced for 5 years, so. It says, Carrie, the information I conveyed to Mike is the information I discovered during my divorce. My ex sold his pizza, quote, dough business to an alleged mafia head, Dito Vicari. Not sure if the spelling is correct. He is the owner of New England Dough in Massachusetts. I had a private investigator go to the Lawrence location, and the PI stated that these guys were mob-related. I was also told by several former pizza owners that Dito was involved with the mafia. Interestingly, my ex tried stealing some of Dito's accounts originally in the Massachusetts area, and Dito, in turn, stole numerous accounts from ex, and his dough sale business was going under because of it. Interestingly, I was told that my ex sold the business to Dito for cash. Dito's son, John, told the PI I hired that they bought the dough business from my ex, Shannon.
So you called them the mafia here.
Called who a mafia?
You said they were mob-related, right?
Who?
Well, the people who were in the pizza dough business.
That's what my PI told me, yes.
Right.
And I conveyed that to you.
Right. So you're still surprised we have your husband's name with them, your ex-husband. You didn't forget.
Not necessarily, because why do you think I got a divorce? He was not the man I thought he was.
Did you tell the courts he's in the mob?
I tried to convey lots of different information to the courts, but
Did you ever say to the court, my husband works for organized crime and that's why we cannot
I
show
never got
income?
that far. Never got that far. I thought financial. That's how I found out about that. He sold one of the businesses, and he was saying that he didn't sell it.
What's he do now?
He still owns his pizza business, as far as I know.
So he's in the pizza business.
Yeah.
Right. Could you read this highlighted piece here?
What is this?
Just like the highlighted piece. You could read it.
Okay. It says their actual accounts are below, but all transactions are with Mass/New Hampshire, cops/attorneys, and business owners. Notice how they slightly alter the names, countries, slash countries, yet it's the same account. These cops and attorneys are the same ones tied to Wynn Resort and various construction companies.
Well, you see what they're doing with these wires. They also bribe. You remember me saying that they take bribes and we were chasing down wires for briberies?
They were chasing down wires for
Well,
briberies.
it's just like this. What I just showed you. Those were wires and those were bribes.
Okay.
These are the same CG technologies, Cantor Gaming, and they're wiring into state troopers' accounts. Right. All right. Who's Ed?
Ed is a friend of mine. He's my best friend's dad.
Is he a lawyer?
No.
Had he done work for us as a lawyer?
No.
I mean, all these things that he wrote here?
He's a consultant. He was a consultant.
So he's the illegal consultant?
No, he was a consultant that I asked if, I said, I introduced you to him, you had a meeting with him, and you said that you wanted to have him work with us.
Right, I did. And he did work for us, didn't he?
Well, I wouldn't say he worked for you. He did some work.
I said work for us, right? So he did quite a bit of work. Didn't he do work on the Long, Nakamura, and Russell case?
Not that I recall.
Well, take a look. That's your email, and that's their inference. There you go. Here's another one we could look at. Do you remember him working on the Cohen case?
Cohen.
Remember Cohen?
Vaguely. I remember
There's
the name,
no-
but I don't remember the substance behind it.
The one who forged my tax returns. You remember that? You remember we made those accusations that my...
What's the first name with Cohen? So that I can...
I don't recall. Mark Cohen.
Oh, okay.
So he's the one with the forged tax returns. You remember the forged tax return, right?
I remember about the forged tax returns, but I can't remember players. There's so many people.
Well, Cohen was the attorney. In fact, I believe Cohen was the one deposition you got, didn't it?
I don't know, Mike. I don't
Right.
remember.
Do you remember what happened to the Cohen complaint?
I don't. Sorry.
Oh, you don't?
I don't.
You don't remember the people in Mississippi saying they're going to kick the Cohen complaint out?
I don't. It's
You
so
don't? Well,
much
here you go. Here's
stuff.
another email that he says that they are going to kick it out. And Mississippi said they were going to kick it out. And here's another email that you went back to Cohen with Mr. Smith, Ed Smith, and saying they understand why Mississippi said that.
Mike informed. So this says Mike informed that the Mississippi's attorneys told him that
Right.
it would be thrown out. So Mississippi's attorneys were saying, what I remember from
You
this
can read it
meeting-
right here. You don't even have to
Right,
remember.
well, I'm looking at this.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that I believe that the Mississippi's attorney were saying that it wasn't like written well or something. It wasn't like, I
In
don't know
fact,
the
it was going to be
words,
kicked out.
because the way it was structured and stuff, that it, You know what I mean? Like they were saying that
It was written
or
improperly.
maybe there was no merit or something. I don't know.
No, there was in the third party. It was written improperly. Here you go. You can read what. Now, this is what Mississippi told me, and I told you. This is what that you were telling to Ed regarding Mississippi. Ed wrote you this back.
Okay, these are the same day, 9/17.
Right. I just want you to remember.
And 9/17.
This is something else you didn't bring up, so you again forgot this with Mississippi. So you did a lot more work with Mississippi than you might have remembered. Now, do you see where they acknowledge Mississippi and that Ed turns around and says, I can see why it's dismissed? In fact, you can read that last paragraph.
It says, I read over the Cohen complaint. I understand why the Mississippi delegation might conclude that the complaint could or would get dismissed. Most probably because it could be construed as not making a claim for which relief can be granted. I think that's what I was trying to say. I don't have the legal jargon behind me.
Well,
The merits or whatever.
so guess what? If you were a spy, and so is Ed, they could construct it in such a way that the court would kick it out, and here's a guy who forged my name on the tax return, which would validate the DRA, my claim against them and the IRS. So you can see it was pretty important. You do remember I said that was forged, right?
You had said, yeah, there was some tax information I remember that was forged, but I didn't.
And you don't remember them saying that it was a forgery?
Who said it was a forgery?
An expert.
I wasn't around at that time. I was just told when I came in.
This is a email from you with the attachment's handwriting analysis, right?
What's that? Let me see. It was probably you had said you wanted me to get another forensic expert to look at the alleged forgery because you said you wanted another opinion, and that's when I was looking for another forensic specialist.
Right. We had one, and I wanted you to get two. So that means we had it verified that it was a forgery, and I wanted another analysis. That's exactly what I'm saying, because it was a forgery. Now, on the Cohen case, where that was dismissed, did you speak to anybody else about it?
About the Cohen case?
A lawyer.
I always carry.
A lawyer. Did you speak to a lawyer?
I can't remember.
You remember speaking to Mr. Barrington, who's sitting right next to me?
I remember speaking to, having an email with Barrington about I was reviewing some work that was done, and there was a statute referenced, and it was in error when I looked at it, and I tried to pull it up because I didn't know what that statute meant. So I looked it up to review what that statute meant, and I'm like, I couldn't find it anywhere. And that's when
Did you mention the Cohen complaint with him?
I don't remember.
And remedies for the Cohen complaint?
I don't remember. I know I was told what I could and could not do with Barrington because he was handling certain cases and not others, and Carrie
You were
would tell
asking
me
him
what
about
I could.
remedies about repealed citations of RICO being incorrect.
Again, there was a case where I saw that a
So you were
statute
looking
that
to-
was filed prior to me getting there was incorrect, and I called attention to the fact that it was incorrect. So that was concerning to me, so I brought it to light.
Oh, you spoke to Mr. Barrington about it.
Spoke to you and Carrie about it, and then I spoke to Barrington about it.
That's what I asked you.
And I said I did.
So, did you see any of our videos?
I did see some of your videos, yes.
When's the last one?
The last video I saw was the deposition of, I don't know his name, I want to say Neil?
Oh, so you're right up to date.
No, I'm not actually. I just looked at that one.
Well, that was the last one.
Okay.
So, so that's up to date. So did you look at any of the ones before that?
I looked at some when I was working for you, because we were supposed to. You told us we needed to watch all the videos, and you got upset if we didn't. I was trying to look at them at work, and my computer wouldn't allow me to look at them at work, so I always had to do it at home. And then I kind of, life happens, and I got busy. I couldn't keep watching them all, and I remember you were not happy with that. And then there was a few throughout time that I would sporadically go and look on that I thought were interesting, and I was hoping that you had come to some information to shed some light on some things going on here in New Hampshire.
I'm doing that right now with you.
Oh, good.
And it includes the mafia and organized crime.
I hope so, Mike. I hope so.
Really?
I really do.
Well,
Yes.
so, let me see. So, have you been prepared to go ahead? Did anybody speak to you?
No,
Nobody.
I didn't speak to anyone other than Barrington, and you asked me the other day.
So you
sent me
haven't
an
talked
email.
to an attorney about any of
haven't,
this?
not that I recall.
What do you mean you don't recall?
I don't have an attorney for this.
Do you have an attorney?
I have an attorney for a lawsuit that I have pending.
Oh, and what's his name?
Finest Williams.
Really?
Yeah.
So, with Ed, you agreed that he did legal work for us.
He consulted in his professional opinion and his education as a consultant.
And what did he consult? Legal matters only?
Legal matters, no. I think structure of your pro se. It was an opinion about your pro se.
Isn't that legal instructions?
I guess if you
What's
wanted
pro
to define
se?
it that way, you were asking for help because you
And he
couldn't
did.
write things in the manner that they needed to be presented.
Right, so we depended on other people, and isn't that how our cases get violated?
How your cases get violated?
Well, I just showed you Cohen. It was written improperly, wasn't it?
I don't know what who wrote Cohen.
Did not the people from Mississippi say it was?
They said that they thought it would be thought it could and would be thrown out because of the way it was structured and the merit of
from
it.
Ed, right? Right.
I don't know.
And who else did you work with? Mr. Barrington, right? Did he work with you on Cohen?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
Like I said, I recall reading some whatever motion or whatever it was, and I saw and I go, what is that statute? I looked it up, and then I realized, I'm like, it doesn't exist. And then I realized it was incorrect, and I called attention to it immediately.
Well, who wrote it?
I don't recall.
You noticed it was incorrect.
I did.
So it was written by someone that you could tell that it was wrong.
Because I looked into it.
Does it look like it could be sabotaged?
Does it look like it could be sabotaged? I don't.
Well, how about
understand the
this? I'll
question.
make it easier. What happened? It got kicked out for that exact reason. So that's a pretty good sabotage, the one that works, isn't it?
Well, it should. Like I said, I called attention to it and
Right.
could have been changed.
Now, when watching these videos, right, that I made you watch, don't forget you came as a victim. So you were watching the videos and reading it before we even met. You didn't see the video Mafia Alive and Well? You get fired during it.
I can't remember. There's so many. I did see one, and that I believe had something to do with it, and it
Had something to do with
makes
you and you
sense.
don't remember it?
It had something to do with me.
Well, your husband was one of the wires.
Well, that's awesome. I think that's great if you have information about
Really?
that. I would love to have that brought forward.
So let's summarize by this. You bring Penn National with the Mississippi people who put it in writing that it's a global settlement between Penn National and Liberty Mutual, one of which I wasn't suing Penn National, and Liberty Mutual we didn't even know about at the time. And we're going to go further coincidence that you work for the state and your husband's in the mafia. You quit the day that we have your husband's name shows up on...
I didn't quit. I was fired.
You were fired because I asked you if you were involved in this, and you wrote what I just had you read.
I confided in you what happened to me and my experience with my divorce and my ex and the court system, as it repeatedly has been happening to me for the last 5 years.
And my point is, I believe, and I'm saying this, you set it up, you came in as a victim, you got in there, your husband does work for the mafia, you were involved in Penn National, you
Not my
brought a
husband.
previously a Mississippi attorney who wanted to settle those pieces, and they didn't even know about Liberty Mutual. All set.
All right. Now to start, right, Mississippi was a law firm called Hiram Eastman. It was his firm. The state with more casinos in it that are owned by Penn National is the state of Mississippi. Turns out Liberty Mutual and the deep state dropped the ball with me and Morris Mahoney. What happened was I started going to the FBI and the DOJ, and they all started getting nervous. And I was bringing a videotape. So what they did was they took this Shannon Donnelly, who last name was Vesey. She was in, her husband, her ex-husband, was in those transfers and did get arrested. Now, what they did was she came to me as a victim. Victims that I was speaking to on the hour every day for weeks, then years. So she was simply a victim. She got employed by my company in state of corruption going through Carrie Lemieux, who is the person videotaping it. After this video, they had me tried to murder me for the first time before I even knew the cartel. That was in Miami, the Ritz-Carlton. But it was the product of this. And Barrington was a mole. Hiram Eastman was working for Penn National. The same people now, remember Play for Pay, that deposition where I told you the stenographer and the videographer were part of this? They were present. And what happened shortly afterwards? They became a part of a settlement offer. Liberty dropped the ball. These guys, Deep State, dropped the ball. Hiram was going to appear like he was my attorney from Mississippi, from Penn National. Penn National says, this thing's going down the tubes. We'll take care of Gill. They sent her in here. She was a mole. She was telling him she was corrupting cases. She was corrupting subpoenas, as all the other paralegals would. But hers was a mission to connect with me, even on a romantic basis, which that didn't work either. So at this point here, right, she was telling them, and those offers, you'll see, 25 from Penn. I wasn't suing them, 25 from Liberty. Penn National was jumping in on the settlement to get a global. And do you hear the term global settlement again? Do you remember the term in the first 50 million? What did they call it? A global settlement. Global and global. So at this point, when I turn down that, you'll see multiple other emails between Barrington and myself. I had fired Barrington because I knew what he was doing. I knew what he was doing while I was doing the deposition, which is why he wasn't doing the deposition. But that's the point. That was to say, you've seen it through the Play for Pay. You see how it happened there. What was the other thing? Oh, wire fraud. Did you hear how they turned around and the mob got arrested for wire fraud? CG Technology, Cantor Gaming got busted for wire fraud. Are we seeing a similar situation here? Wire fraud. Wire fraud is money laundering and payoffs and bribes. That's what this is. That's what we detected. And that was what's worth $50 million. Penn jumped in on to get the deal done. These were the same people saying, oh, he's breaking down horses, right? We were on E60, the most hated man in racing. You know why? Because I was telling you was cheating. Everybody I told you was cheating went to jail, became a federal witness. How's that? This is going to sound a lot familiar because I'm bringing this home the same way. And they're all equally nervous and scared. Now you know why Flynn took this evidence. This Flynn gets into New Hampshire, but the money laundering network of the deep state globally. Remember that $935 billion that went through the Pandora's papers went into the state of New Hampshire, into the laundering network I just gave you. Remember, this was 13, 14, 15. 15 is when I first met with Trump's people. 16, I ran for governor, and that's when I met O'Keefe and Day. They brought me the names of the heads of the cartel. Why? Because I had their money laundering network of the deep state, and they were going to use it as blackmail and extortion. That's what happened. It was intercepted. This is how Sununu became governor, in that partnership with the leverage, and he became the new gatekeeper of the Pandora's box. He took the keys from Shaheen. You see what I'm saying? And it had to do with my evidence only. Every person you see was a mole. She was a mole. Bill Barrington was a mole. Lemieux was a mole. My VP, Brian Toomey, was a mole. You don't think that the FBI could control all of this Patriot independent network? Yes, they could. These are the few bastions that are left, and they're closing fast. Imagine what was done here. Now, from here, it got bigger. When I plugged into the cartel with them, no, I had the cartel, I knew it was, but when I knew the names, again, I went to the DEA. It was the largest fentanyl seizure in history. The same evidence I gave the DEA that you've seen on camera that filled an 80,000 capacity tractor trailer came from that cartel of fentanyl with the same evidence the court had, that they hit me with $274 million. These same people who wanted to pay me $50 million over and over again, together with the cartel, which is why Bill Shaheen represented the cartel, which is why Bill Shaheen represents Maxwell, which is why Shaheen is the husband of Senator Shaheen, who's connected with the IRS, which is why the IRS is on this, tied to Shaheen, because they're involved in the money laundering network. The one thing you're seeing of all this stealing and cheating is finding their money. This was the trail of how they get paid, and then where they put it, and here how they hide it. And that's when I got into the LLCs, the limited corporations, the casinos, the gaming. All of it came together. This network isn't in New Hampshire, it's across the United States, it's globally, but it's centered here. It's incorporated here. The LLCs are registered here. Silicon Valley Bank, right, went out of business. They turned around, had that banking collapse. They were a registered New Hampshire corporation. You get it? That's what that was. So these LLCs could be in your state, could be these but they're incorporated in the state of New Hampshire, and they're not getting audited. And by the time you figure it out, it's a new corporation. All that's going on. The largest industry in this country is money laundering. Because everything that's stolen, everything that's sold corruptly, everything that'll kill you has to be hidden. The profits from that, and it has to be laundered. And that is the commonality. That is where they all meet. That is where the evidence, everything you've seen here was evidence. Enough to turn around and have Steve Wynn resign. Enough that the Boston Globe had to report this because we were reporting it. Okay. You know what? I hope to go back into some other videos. Like, for instance, the video that preceded this, which was bad luck, and it was about horse racing. Because of all this, they shut down an HBO series called Luck. Because of me, they thought I was the character. And the thing with breaking down a horse racing. Right. Rachel Nichols, E60, their first show. I made their inaugural show. Me in Haiti, and how they were suffering from the hurricane and so forth. My point being is, this is public news. They tried to bury me. They tried to show but I'm telling you, it's all here. And as time goes on, you see the proof because you're living the proof. So I'm going to give you other pieces. You want to hear stories? I'll give you stories. From here, right? The largest bookie and you'll see it on the tape, in the whole state of Pennsylvania, got bagged. He turned around, told me, I blame you, but I'm not going to be mad at you because I know you're doing the right thing. He goes, I wouldn't take a bet on a racetrack. Are you kidding me? But they had to make it look like they weren't betting offshore. So the biggest bookie in the state of Pennsylvania had to go to jail. And he was on my video. Steve Shaley, how do you like that? Comes to me sometimes just like that. Okay. Thank you.
Are you tired of all the pills in your medicine cabinet? I'm Linda Bamber Olson, the creator of the Wave Watch, a more natural approach with 1,000 frequencies for mind and body. People have used the Wave Watch for kidney stones, arteries, blood, immune system, vagus nerve, myocarditis, allergies, colds and flu, ADD and ADHD, strokes, Parkinson's, carpal tunnel, thyroid, Lyme disease, and so much more. WaveWatch has a 1-year manufacturer's warranty for defects and flaws, and you can also upgrade to an additional warranty for water damage and breakage. Are you tired of all your pills and endless trips to the pharmacy? Why not try the WaveWatch with 1,000 different self-care ideas and put your mind at ease?
Just go to wavewatch.com. At checkout, use the code Michelle100 to receive $100 savings on your purchase.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Fulgens, America's gold expert and consultant for First National Reserve. Our country is in a financial crisis. Banks are failing, debt is soaring, and high inflation has people worrying about their future. The answer is to buy gold and put gold in your IRA. Gold has outperformed stocks and continues to increase in value. So call today to receive our free award-winning gold guide. Our professional representatives are standing by at 800-321-8700.
For Michelle's social media links, go to MichelleMooreShow.com.